Hi, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be using OpenAPI Generator to build a network service for us, and it is an amazing library from Apple that will generate our client. It will generate our type code. In other words, we won't have to write our own models. If this is something you're looking forward to, stay tuned because this is one of my favorite new features that I've found when writing Apple and Swift code. Alright, so here we are in our brand new Xcode project. We've just created a new iOS app, as you can see here. Now, if we're going to add an OpenAPI config to our project, let's go ahead and do that. So we will select our greeting service app here, and we will press Command N for a new file. We'll create a new empty file, and this file will be an empty other. And we're going to call this openapi.json and hit create. There we go. And so we're going to go to the OpenAPI docs that we created from a recent video. Now we're just going to copy those out of our browser, just like that. And then we're going to paste those into here. Now we should be able to fix the formatting by highlighting everything and pressing Control M to put everything on multiple lines, and then we can hit Control I just to fix any indentation issues that may be there. There we go. We've got that all set up and ready to go now. Alright, and the other configuration file that we need is what types of stuff we want OpenAPI Generator to actually generate. So again, we'll go back to our project app file here, and we'll press Command N for a new file. And again, we'll do a new empty file. And this one will be called openapi-generator-config.yaml. There we are. Now, I've already got the docs pulled up over here in our browser, and as we can see from the OpenAPI tutorial, that this is going to generate the types and the client that we need, and we're going to use an idiomatic naming strategy. Now, what that means is it will take names such as like a snake case or a kebab case name and convert it to a camel case, which is something that most Swift users already use as their default. So let's come back over here into our project and we will paste that code there. All right. And with that, we are ready to start adding in our OpenAPI dependencies. Now, these dependencies will automatically take the types and generate them based on our config file here, and it will create the clients also based on the config file and allow us to access those variables through a naming strategy that is familiar to most Swift users. All right, so let's go back up to our project, and then we will go up to the project settings here and go over to package dependencies, and then we'll click on the plus button. Now, I recently have used these in projects. I actually use this in my day job, and I love it. It is actually one of my favorite features that I've come across and used in Xcode in a long time. I cannot recommend this highly enough. I love the OpenAPI generator stuff. It's very cool. So if you don't have those GitHub links, you can come over to your documentation, and as we'll see here, we can scroll down and we can find that we need the OpenAPI generator. And since this package provides a build plugin that we'll integrate later, make sure to choose on the package product screen that the add to target value is none for this first package here. And so let's go back over at Xcode, and we've got our OpenAPI generator, and we'll click Add Package. All right, and as you can see, it likes to choose our target by default, so we will go back and make sure that this is set to none, just for the OpenAPI generator piece. So then we'll choose Add to Package. There we are. And then let's go back to the instructions in the documentation. And now there are two more that we need. We need the OpenAPI runtime and the OpenAPI Swift OpenAPI URL session. And again, all of these are from Apple, and they are great to use and work with. So let's go ahead. Oh, and one more note to add here. This time we do want to add them to our project. So let's go ahead and let's go back into Xcode, and we can choose plus. And again, if we had copied those URLs for the GitHub links, we could just paste them in right here in our search bar. But again, I've already got them here, and so we'll just select this one, the OpenAPI runtime, and we will add it to our package. And this time we will choose that we want it to be added to our target, and so we'll let that stay added to our target. And then the last one is the URL session, and again we will add this package and make sure that add to target is selected, and then we'll add it to our package. There we go. Now the next step that we want to do is we want to go back to our target, and we want to go over to the build phases section, and we want to expand the run build tool plugin, and we'll click plus, and we will add our OpenAPI Generator to our run build tool plugin. Now what this does is this will automatically run our generator every time our project builds. And so if you have a change to your API documentation, all you have to do to get that change active in your project is to just press Command plus B, which is build in your project by default. Press Command plus B, and then it will automatically regenerate everything from your OpenAPI config. So let's give it a shot, and let's press Command B and build our project. Nice, build success. And with that, we are ready to start using our code. So let's create a new file, and let's say this is a Swift file, and we're going to call this our network service. And this will be everything that we want to do in our network layer. And in here, we will import our OpenAPI URL session. There we are. And then let's create our public struct network service. And there we are. And we will have a public init. Apple Intelligence. It got close. It got close. We'll give it credit. But that is not what we want our function to be. So our public function is going to be called get greeting, and it will take a name, which will be a string, and it will return a component. Let's say that it returns a string. There we are. All right, and now we will create our response. Actually, we need to create our client first, so let's do that. Now, like we said earlier, Swift is going to automatically generate the client on our behalf. So let's create this, and we will let Swift generate that client, and we will use our server URL and our transport. And let's go ahead and bust these out onto their own line. There we are. And now our server URL, we will try our servers.server1.url, and this server1 comes from a generated type that we automatically pulled out of our OpenAPI docs, and our transport session is our URL session transport, which is just the Swift default here. So it is saying that we are not handling our errors here, which is correct. This method is an async method that can throw, and so we'll let our caller handle that there. Nice, and now we are missing our return statement, so that's okay. Now let's go ahead and use our client to create a response. So we will say we are going to use our client to get a greeting. And this greeting is going to take in a query parameter, and this query parameter is a name. And so we will pass in the value here of the name that we are trying to get back. There we are. And it says this call can throw but is not marked with try. So we will try and await on our client. There we are. And now we actually need to handle the response from this request. So let's switch on our response, and we'll let Xcode automatically give us the cases that we need here. Great, it got the OK case and the undocumented case. So these again come from our OpenAPI config. And so if we had, for example, if this was an authenticated endpoint, we would have possibly a 401, which is an unauthenticated state, and that would be displayed in here by default, as long as it is listed out in our API docs. Or if there was a server error, which would be a 500, then that would also be listed here, and it would allow us to handle those directly in our code, meaning that we are always, as long as our docs are up to date, we are always guaranteed to handle all of our responses correctly and efficiently. So inside of here, we will try to get our OK response. We will switch on that OK response and go and iterate over the body property there. And then we want to check if the JSON has a message. So we will say JSON.message. There we go. And at that point, we know that it's probably fine to return to force unwrap this here because we've already said that it's an OK response. So we already know that there's no errors with this. All right, and then in our undocumented state, we just want to print, oh no, something went wrong. And we will let the user know what the status code was. There we are. Now that we've got that, it is still going to fuss because we aren't returning a string here. So let's make our return optional. And if everything else has fallen through, then we will return nil on our greeting, just like that. All right, and so let's go back into our content view and let's create a text. So we will use @state var your name equals an empty string at first. And so we will say that there is a text field with a title of enter your name to get a greeting, and the binding that we will pass is your name. There we are. And so now what we can do is we can say .onSubmit. We want to run a task, and again, this isn't always the best code for concurrency, but this is again just a sample project. And in this task, we want to try our network service, and we want to try to get a greeting of a greeting to your name. And we forgot to await, so let's try await. And if this greeting succeeds, we want to display that to the user, and so we will have another state var, and our greeting will be an optional string. We'll go ahead and set it to an empty string here. And now, if this succeeds, we will set our greeting to the greeting that we get back from our service. And then we want to display that on the screen. So let's say that we have a text of greeting here. And then if that doesn't fail, we will say that we don't have a greeting yet. There we are. All right. So one thing we can do is we can go back and we can run our project. So let's run our Vapor project. And we will run that here. So let's get back over into our main file. Let's run our Vapor project. Build succeeded. Okay. And then let's run our sample app here on the simulator. And let's go ahead and slide this over so we can see both our sample app and our server here. All right, so let's enter our name and get a greeting. So if I say that my name is Chase, it says, hello, Chase. Nice. And just like that, we were able to get our parameter in our text field sent to our server and have our server return a response that is a greeting back to our app and then display it. Very cool. That's one of the reasons why I love the OpenAPI generator so much. It is so easy to get network requests made and ensure that they are type safe and ensure that they are actually safe and handling all the errors that we could possibly expect, especially all the ones that we've documented. It handles them amazingly well, and it requires such little code on our part. And with that, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. And feel free to leave a comment. Just be nice about it. That's all I ask. And let me know in the comments below what you think about using this as your method of creating network requests. I personally like this a lot more than the built-in Swift method of writing everything out by hand and doing it all manually. I've actually started using this in my day-to-day projects, like I said earlier in the video. And I am really excited about using this even more in the future. Let me know if you're looking forward to it too. Thanks. Have a great day.